Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Into It with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, your host, registered dietitian, and intuitive eating counselor. And today I have on Rivky Boyarsky. Got it right?
Yep.
Hi, Rivky. How are you? How's everything?
Hi, Baruch Hashem. We're doing good.
Okay, great. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? What do you do?
Okay, so my name is Rivky Boyarsky, as Gila told you. I live in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. I am a midwife. I am a college teacher, and I do a whole bunch of other things. Those are like my two primary hats. I basically feel very passionately about anything that has to do with women, women's health, women in Tyra, women in firm life. And so that's really where my outward energy has been like really focused on.
Amazing. Okay, so tell us, how did you become a midwife, college teacher? Like, talk to me about like where it all began. Like you said, everything women. I know you're Chabad. It happens to be I'm not Chabad. I do have Chabad relatives, but I do know that there's a huge emphasis in the Chabad community for women to like help other women. So is that where it began?
So honestly, probably not. And I will explain. I think like my journey started as like I was in Chinuch. I was teaching high school. I was in Chinuch and Rivka. I loved what I was doing. I still miss my teaching days. I really, really loved that. And then I got married. I got pregnant. I had a really, really hard pregnancy. And I don't watch movies or read non-Jewish books. And there's only so much you can do when you're stuck in bed for months at a time. And so I was like on a laptop taking entrance exams to schools just for fun. And took the nursing one, scored really well. And I was like, hey, this sounds really interesting. Let's do that. And that kind of like,
Wow.
I'm a very big believer in Hashem putting you in the path where
Mhm.
you need to go. And then it just went out from there. So the outward energy of me doing that and then giving back to the community is definitely very much Chabad specific and very much, the Torah view on if Hashem gave you something, then we tie it to our Avodas Hashem and we make sure that we're positively impacting our micro communities and our macro communities.
That's beautiful. So you got married, you got pregnant. You were never intending to become a nurse?
No, I was very happy. We were going to go on shlichus. I was very happy teaching. Like that could have been my shlichus. I very much feel like this was the path that Hashem intentionally sent me on. And then I was a nurse for a while. And one day, I used to host a lot of young women at my table. And one day someone said, can you teach me Kala classes? And I was like, I'm not a Kala teacher. Like, I cannot do this. Um, and she said, well, if you're not going to teach me, I'm not going to learn. And I was like, okay,
I
this
guess,
is
I
also
guess,
very Bob, but Aleph teach
yeah,
Aleph. And
yeah,
I was like, well, if Schliffus could do it, I'm
right,
not stupider than that. I can teach her
right.
too. And I was very clear with her that it wouldn't be comprehensive. And one went to two. And at that point, there wasn't really a certifying body in the Chabad world as there is now. And I taught a few kalas. And then I was tapped to be part of the first training of kala teachers here in the Chabad world. And I did that. The natural next step was definitely going to midwifery school, and it just like everything was very organic. Then I became a bodekes. Then I started, my kids got older. I started teaching about puberty. Like it was all super. Like this is where I am, and I'm a very big believer in Hashem, like moving us along the journey of. We just have to listen to it.
That's amazing. So cool. I think like I'm petrified of like blood and anything like medical, so I can't do that. But like a part of me is always like, I would love to be a doula or be like maybe one day a college teacher, you know? I just like love like helping women. My whole thing is like helping women feel beautiful in their body. So I feel like naturally it goes like as a college teacher, you know, like you have the ability to like help them start their journey as a married woman, like feeling beautiful in their body. Like I feel like it's so powerful. And one more question. So when you were a nurse, were you like labor and delivery nurse or you were what type of nurse were you?
That's really a great question because I was not a labor and delivery nurse. Here in New York City, to be a from labor and delivery nurse is impossible because there's algorithms they have to staff, and every nice from girl who goes into nursing wants to do either pediatrics or labor and delivery. I did literally, first of all, I don't do pediatrics. I don't want to deal with anxious parents. It's a very like you have three patients, not for me. Labor and
Right.
delivery is absolutely something I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to fight for it. So I did everything but that. I did. long-term care. I did post-surgery. I did oncology. I did I did everything
Wow.
else.
Wow.
So my background before I went into midwifery school was not necessarily in women's health. So I have also a little bit of a different perspective when I'm treating people because I see a little bit of a more holistic picture.
But I want to hear what brought you to midwifery school. There has to be a story there. You're like, oh, I'm going to go back to school now.
The story is again, Hashem put me where I needed to be, which is I was doing my Kala classes while I
Yeah.
was working. And then one day I lifted a patient, wasn't my patient, it was someone else's patient. She said, "Hey, Rivka, can you come help me?" And I said, "Of course," because I believed in Nurses Without Borders and we all help with each other's assignments. And she didn't lift the patient. I did. And I popped my back, got what's actually a permanent partial disability. So I'm still dealing with like back issues. And so the hospital actually paid for me to go back to school. And I said, whatever you want to do that isn't bedside nursing, we'll pay out for. And so they did.
Wow. And then you're like, I'm going to go to midwifery school.
Yeah, because
And
one,
how is that?
so
Was it
I
really hard?
went into
Did you already have kids? Like,
So
was,
I had each one of my kids during one part of my schooling, which is very apropos for the nursing world.
yeah.
So it's not something that's unusual and it's not something that people are not prepared for. And you definitely have peers that are doing the same thing. I didn't have that many peers who were having baby number five.
Hmm.
But I definitely had peers who were um, in similar situations. I went to Frontier, which is actually one of the most highly regarded midwifery programs. It's out in Kentucky. You go out there for a week, twice during the program, and the rest is virtual.
Wow.
There are other from midwives who went there as well. Great from midwives who went there as well, but it is a competitive school. And I enjoyed that. That was right before
Yeah.
COVID.
Wow.
At that point, my youngest was five, and I was, with secondary infertility, was not really expecting another child. And of course, I did get pregnant.
Wow.
And Baruch Hashem had a baby during school, and then came the pandemic. So my schooling was a little bit schleppy.
Yeah.
But Baruch Hashem.
Wow. You're saying it so like nonchalantly as if it's like just, it's just a part of your story, but there's like so much to unpack just in what you just said. But I want, if it's okay, just to pivot for a moment. I've heard you speak a little bit on Instagram. Could you tell us a little bit about your own journey with intuitive eating, health at every size, body positivity, like even just like your perspective on it? I would love to hear.
Okay, so I'll share a little bit personal, but I'll also share a lot more from a clinical perspective and an educational perspective. So on a personal level, anyone who meets me will know, oh, she's not a size two. Clearly, I literally have never been a skinny person in a skinny body. And growing up, I mean, I don't know how old you are, Gila, but
I'm 35.
35. Okay, so
Just
I'm
the
a,
number.
a drop older than you, and I was definitely in that like age of like jazzer, like my mother would be like, "You want to go to jazzercise? Like, let's work it out." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like that was the intensity of like, who cares what's in our food as long as it's low calorie, right?
Right,
Who cares
right.
what's in our food as long as it's low fat?
With that, right,
Who cares what's in our food at nutrition wise as long as we're losing weight? And
right.
that is the only marker of our health. And that is definitely the world that I grew up in. And I think what's amazing is talking to young people. I run postpartum groups. I go around and I travel talking to young people.
Wow.
And if I'm in a classroom, in a high school classroom, or even an eighth grade classroom, and I have this conversation, the girls are looking at me like, obviously, like, duh, like this is the conversation they're surrounded with from so many places in a way that our generation really, really had to rewrite what was given to us.
Right.
And it was not because our parents were not okay or they weren't good. They were doing the most that
That's
they were
different.
able to do with the information. And I'm sure one day our kids will look at us and be like, really, Ma?
Yeah, 100%.
So there was a whole lot of like, when I was growing up, I didn't really like care enough to do something about it. Like I would listen to my mother and be like, okay, and at a certain point I went away for seminary and I was like, you know what? I should lose weight. And I think Atkins or like whatever version of keto. I don't think it was called keto.
Mm.
There was, and I
Low
lost
carb.
weight. it was basically low carb, and
Right.
I lost, I think, like 40 pounds, and I came back from Pesach, and everyone was like, that was the only conversation.
Right.
And I remember how uncomfortable that made me, that I was not a person anymore. I wasn't Rivky and her interesting ideas, Rivky and her creativity, Rivky and whatever else there was, and her intellect. And it was, oh my God, you lost so much weight. You look so good. Oh my God, let's go shopping. You look so good. Let's get it. Was like I was a body.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt good. Okay, let's be real. Like it felt good. Um, and like a lot of like your identity becomes that when that is the conversation. So on one hand, you feel uncomfortable. On one hand, you feel good. Like you are now not just Rifki, you are the body that houses Rifki, and that somehow becomes what's super important. Um, Fast forward again, I never became skinny. So like let's just like I have no experience being skinny ever, and that's okay. Um, I remember like continuing this, like, okay, so I got married and I got pregnant and I got, I had another baby and I had another baby and my body fluctuated. And sometimes it was really skinny and sometimes it was not really skinny, but sometimes it was like on the skinnier, quote unquote, like standard size person. And sometimes it was larger. And if you go to my closet today, I have clothes in, I think, every single size almost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember actually on Instagram, I think it was like Rachel Hertzman or someone that like I reached, or Rachel Tuckman or one of those
Mm-hmm.
like people, and I had like she had posted something and I was like, hey, I want to hear more about this. Like, tell me. And she's like, these are the books that you should read if you really want to know more. And so I bought them and I was like, oh, this like doesn't make sense. Like,
Right.
this doesn't make sense at all. Like, this is not like you can't be quote unquote healthy if you are listening to your body, because my body wants chocolate cake,
Right.
right? And
Right.
like my
Right.
body, like honestly, like years later, I know I am not in focus.
And I don't know why I'm
Um,
saying that, but
I
you're
don't know what's happening. That has never happened before, but I keep going out of focus.
right.
Um, Chocolate cake. Okay. I know my body actually doesn't want chocolate cake on the regular. Um, Fast forward, okay. So I read the books, I reread the books, I reread the books again.
So let's say like
I,
intuitive eating, health at every size,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah,
anti-diet, books like that. Like all
yeah,
the
exactly.
classic. Okay.
All the classics, all the classics. And I read them once and I was like, and then I like skimmed through them on a Shabbos afternoon again. And I was like, okay, maybe. And then like I read it again and it was like this process of like, and then I wanted to talk it out and how do I feel? And I wanted to try it on for size. I think like on a personal level, like you're rewriting your own stuff. And so there's a lot of unlearning. Now, let's shift gears for a second because somewhere along this line, my oldest daughter, I have older sons, but my oldest daughter started hitting puberty. And so I started reaching out to friends and I was like, well, what are we giving our kids for, to read? Like, what are we
Hmm.
doing with our children?
Right.
And I was given Gaisha resources. And again, coming from where I'm coming from, and the chinuch that I want to give my kids, that's not what I wanted to give them. So I was like, you know what, Rifki, you know this information, write your kid something. So
Wow.
I started writing, like it started off with dear, whatever my child's name was. This is what I want you to know when I started writing. And as I'm writing, and I'm putting together resources and I'm putting everything together, my kid has not really reached puberty. I'm just forward thinking.
Right.
Kid is
Right.
10 and I have like 2 years of like,
Hmm.
my sister runs a middle school out in Los Angeles and she's like, hey, Rifki, the person who always teaches our girls about their bodies is not available this year. I'd love to spend time with you. Come out to LA.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay,
All
sure.
right.
I can do that
Yeah.
as a nurse, I was at, I think at that point I was in midwifery school. I was like, I can do this. And so I put together a PowerPoint and I went out and I spoke to them. And I remember, do you know Ruchama from Mask?
I know the name. Yeah.
Okay, so Ruchama was like, Rifki, if you're gonna do this, you need to talk to the parents. And she is like spot on the money because that is
Wow.
like the missing piece here. Because I can have a 45-minute clinical talk with girls, but I need
Right.
the mothers to really step in. And so we
Right.
made the evening for parents and I spoke to the parents. Um, and what I noticed is that they did not know anything. Like, and if I tell you they did not know anything, they had the same thoughts and feelings about themselves and their bodies and uncomfortabilities with their bodies that I grew up with.
Right.
And so I noticed that there was a lot of unlearning, not just around intuitive eating, but around just how we're interacting with our bodies on the most basic level. And I think we could have a conversation about intuitive eating and we could have a conversation about health at every size, but I think the conversation has to go backwards. And that's a conversation that comes in a little bit further. And I will say, as someone who worked out of the frum community has this issue on a much deeper level than the outside world, barring Eastern Europeans, okay? Because they have it the way we have it. But meaning like a heavier person walking around in the Guy Chevelle is not as much of an anomaly as a heavier person in the frum world. In the frum
Right.
world, people are like, well, what's wrong with her? Well,
Right. Right.
why? Like,
Right.
she doesn't care about herself. What does it
Right.
mean?
Right.
But
Right.
like in the Guy Chevelle, they're like, okay, and
Right. Right.
like she puts herself together and she's okay, and who cares? And
It's funny. It's really funny that you say that. I probably have said this before on the podcast. I hear a lot of different perspectives from a lot of different people. So, like for example, I've had girls on my table who did not grow up from, and they became from, and they're dating. They're not married yet, and they said that in the in the non-Jewish world, like in the non-from world, they could meet a guy at a bar and hit it off with them, and they would never work on paper. Like if let's say they're shidduch resumes, right? And maybe they were skinnier or fatter. I don't even remember. And the guys aren't as brutal in terms of the way that they look. Like they'll go out, right? You've heard that. And then I
I
hear
don't
that
think it's the guys most of the time, to be fair.
I think
I
it's like
honestly think it's the
the mom,
mothers.
right? And but then I also hear that in the non-Jewish world, like women are objects, and that like
But they're objects regardless of the size. It's not a size thing. You're an
right,
object because of the perspective, because you allow yourself to be, because I mean, I've sat in break rooms of people, like I hear I heard what's going on. Like I'm not there
right, right,
now, but
right,
that has nothing to do with size.
right, right.
Size
So
is an issue,
yeah,
primarily in the frum community, and I'll explain to you why. It's
yeah, please.
intergenerational. Like, so this is what I started noticing. I started noticing that mothers had a big resistance when I would say things like, the girls need to have joyful movement,
Right,
right? And the girls must eat breakfast, and the girls have to eat throughout the day, and they have to, and like they'll say yes, like, like what if? And like there's no what if, like you and ask
right,
yourself, like, what are you doing, right?
right,
So and then the conversation starts becoming like, what are your, like, and I say this whenever I do workshops through organizations, and I'm like, the first thing we always have to do is examine our biases, okay?
mhm,
And in the frum world, the biases that are internal speak louder than the words that we speak. So for example, if I come here onto this podcast and I say Gila, one second, I'm so sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Just mark the time because I used to do that, so I know. Um, if I come here and I say Gila, we have to talk about the GLP-1 ads in the AMI and in the Mishpacha and in the Bina and in whatever they're called, right? And how that's shaping our community. But then I sit at the pool in the country and I'm like, how many people are on GLP-1s? Like, are you on Ozempic? what what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? Like I can believe in something, but do I believe in it? So
Right,
like if I'm telling my kid, you have to really eat breakfast. But I'm not eating till 2. And I will tell
right,
you that I have patients walk into my office and I'm like, their periods are out of whack.
right,
They're dysregulated, they're emotionally all over the place. And I start asking them about their food and they're like, what does my food have to do with it?
right,
I'm like, everything.
right,
Everything. If you're not having enough calories, if you're not eating to maintain your blood sugar, if you're not having enough healthy fats, if you don't have enough protein, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be miserable. Her
right,
foods are going to be erratic. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to eat well. But if she's going to not be eating well, but then tell her kid to eat well, you know which message is coming across louder? Not mommy telling you to eat, but mommy's not eating,
right,
right? So which message is going to come across stronger? Me telling my daughter you're beautiful no matter what, and me standing at the front hall mirror and pinching and oh my God, I can't believe I ate that muffin on Shabbos.
right,
Look at that pooch. I can't believe,
right,
like what message is my kid actually getting? And I'll tell you straight, your kid is getting whatever message you actually believe in, not
right,
the one you're saying.
right,
And so why do I say Rahama is so smart when she said, Rivky, talk to the parents? Because we need to always, as a community, say, you know what, I want a healthy group of kids coming into this world. They're going to be our next generation. They're going to raise the generation after that. And I can tell them all the information, but unless I change me, I cannot change them. So
100%.
these conversations have to happen to the mothers of the younger children so that we can change how we're looking at ourselves and we can examine where we feel uncomfortable with this idea of, guess what? We don't all have to be skinny.
Right,
And we don't all have to look a certain way to be healthy. And BMIs are actually damaging. And my kids know that when they stand on a scale in a doctor's office, because my doctor's office does sometimes require it, they stand the opposite way. Who cares?
right, right,
And
right,
I have the same approach to who cares to the scale number as I have to I actually don't care about your report card either. Like if
right,
I see you doing all the
right,
effort, like what do I
right,
care, right? It's about the
right,
effort. Not everyone's going to be an A student because not
right,
everyone's blessed with A student stuff or their teacher's not teaching in the way that they need to, right? So let's
right,
look like that's a conversation we've had. That's a conversation we understand. What about food,
right,
right? I tell kids when I walk into a sixth and seventh grade class, Hashem did not create us on a factory setting. Like,
right,
if we were all meant to look exactly the same, we would all have the same hair color, eye color, height, nose shape, etc. But we're supposed to look different. I use the word fat. I'm fat. And like, if a kid's friend hears it or a relative is always like, oh,
right,
don't insult yourself. I'm like,
right,
I'm
right,
not. Like,
right,
I'm
right,
really
right.
not. Like, that's okay.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm not insulting myself. I have been many different sizes over the course of my lifestyle, in my lifetime. And guess what? I'm premenopausal. In 10 years, my shape will change again.
right, right.
And
It's
that's
factual.
okay.
It's not
It's
like
a
you're
factual thing. I have
right.
brown hair. I have tan skin.
So how do you, let me ask you, there's so many things I could say. First of all, I want to, okay, one second. One thing I want to say is, um, I love Ellie Chevalis, and I love something that Ellie Chevalis.
Yes.
She says something very interesting about how we don't teach like a 12-year-old girl about Judaism when she turns 12 or a boy when he turns 13. We teach our children about Judaism as they grow, right? Like every single day. So it's the same thing if like all of a sudden they turn 12 or 13 and they hit puberty and we're like, hey, you know what's going on in your body? Or we start talking about anything to do with like physicality, body, that's not okay. We have to talk about like healthy touch and unhealthy touch all throughout their lives, right? It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not just like that one conversation. So that's like kind of like what you're talking about. That just like stood out to me when you said that. But I feel like you're making a parallel, an interesting parallel about the fact that we don't always, number one, we don't always talk about, bodies, puberties, bodies changing, healthy touch, unhealthy touch. And we also have a big, strong emphasis on being skinny. If it sounds like you're making a parallel, like when you say that we have to speak to the moms, I also say that like when a mom will call me regarding their child, I'll say like this is really more for me to coach the parents on like the feeding environment. Like I'm not going to talk to a 5-year-old about what she's eating, you know? So I feel like you're making a parallel where you're like, okay, there's a really strong emphasis in the firm world on being a certain size, and that like yes, if you tried hard enough, you could be a size two. And the fact that we're not speaking about puberty or bodies changing, which also creates like a lot of body shame.
Um, yeah, so I feel like certainly in some communities that's changing, and my hope is that that changes in other communities. I've given puberty talks outside of the Chabad community. I've given it to Syrian schools, modern Orthodox schools. Um, I really wish I was more in like other schools as well. I don't know that the conversation is happening as much as it's happening for sure within the Chabad world. It's definitely happening, and I do see that, and I think it's so helpful I mean, it's more than just like you're getting a period. This is what a period is.
Right.
It's your ovaries.
Right.
Like it's a very comprehensive. And there are schools that I come in every single year, and I teach something different about it every single year. And that's super amazing.
Hmm.
I think the puberty talk, it allows space for normalization, and I think that that's a big part of it, is the normalization of everyone's going to get their period different. Everyone's
Hmm.
skin's going to be different. Everyone's rate of puberty and growth. It's all this like super normalizing. And one of the things that I do in my puberty talks is also give the girls as much tools as I can to manage things that feel abnormal. Like that's a big part of it. And so when you're getting messages, let's say, for example, someone does buy Jewish publications, and this, what bothers me in the Jewish publications is that your kids are getting in written word and in advertisement messages about their body. And
Hmm.
they're getting messages about that their body has to be skinny in order to be healthy. And if you have your token one article that says, no, like this is healthy, they're still getting the message in 65 other pages that that is not true. And in
Hmm.
the serials that are being in, and in the Judaica books that you're buying, because there's only so much we talk about in the film world. What's the drama,
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so I feel like the normalization is what has to happen of like, also like, why are we talking about bodies? I'm so sorry. Like people are so much more interesting than their body. Like, why? Like, why can we talk
Well,
about
first of all, we have to,
stuff?
but number one, it's kind of important to say, like, we have to talk about our physical bodies, like explaining to the girls our
There
physical bodies.
has to be space to talk about what's normal and what's not normal. There has
Right.
to be space for questions. There has to be
Right.
words that are given.
Right.
But for it to be a social conversation, why?
Right. Right.
Why? Why does Bubby have to come into the house and say, "Oh my God, Mama, you have a
Right.
little poochie, like it's so
Right.
cute. You had a lot
Right.
of Hanukkah donuts."
Right.
Bubby doesn't have to do that. And you
Right.
know what? You can respectfully say,
We don't
Bubby,
talk about
in
we
our
don't talk
house, we
about other
don't talk
people's bodies.
about bodies.
Right. Right.
And then change the subject and give Bubby the covet. Like we're not being disrespectful, right? So we could be
Right.
like, Bubby, it's so nice that you came.
Right.
Like switch it to like, we're not putting
Right.
Bubby in the spot. She's coming from a generation that this was a totally normal
Yeah.
conversation. We're not educating her because you're not going to. You're
Right.
not educating your mother because you're not going to
Right.
either. And that's really not your place. Like we
Right.
are Tyrian and we're not here to educate our parents, right?
Right.
We're here to change the dialogue for the next generation. So in our house, we don't talk about bodies.
Right, right. And I will just say that, like, for people who are very skinny or whatever, they also don't really appreciate it.
No,
So it's like people say, like, no, but it's a compliment. Like, like,
that's you though. Like,
right, right. Just putting it out there. Like, it's so important for people to know. Like, and I just want to say, like, I probably do comment on other people's bodies. I do. I find myself doing it, and I
because
really,
because you're in that generation of in between, right? You're
well, I
that
try
even
not to.
having
I
the
try
not,
not to.
but still you came from a
Right,
space where that was normal in your childhood, and there's going to be times you
100%.
slip up. You think I'm perfect, I'm also
Right,
not perfect. But I
right.
will say something. My body fluctuates wildly sometimes, and I came up to the country one summer, and I'm sitting on my porch, and a group of ladies walk by, as they do in the country. And they were like, "Oh my God, Rivky, you look so good. You look so beautiful. What did you do?" And I was like, "I look so beautiful. Thank you." And they're like, "But what happened?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Right,
Like, I
right,
was
right.
so beautiful last summer. Also, thank you."
Right,
And we're like,
right, right, right.
and that's it. They were like, they did
Yeah.
not know what to do with the
They don't
conversation
know what to
and
say.
they moved on. And it's
Right,
not like I love them. Like we have
right,
great conversations, but I was not
right,
engaging in that conversation.
right.
Like I did, you're not, what if Pastor Shalom had something
Yeah,
else going on?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what if first of all, not your business? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
right,
we don't talk about it. I'm a much more interesting person than my
right.
body.
And you actually alluded to that when you said when you came back from seminary, you lost 40 pounds. It felt good to feel complimented and it was a part of your identity, but you also felt uncomfortable,
Objectified.
objectified, right? And it's such an interesting thing. Like, I'm just gonna make a parallel also that we recently went somewhere and we saw somebody who's like famous, quote unquote, in the Jewish world. And my husband was like, I wonder if he likes all this attention, you know? And I'm like, well, I actually heard on a podcast from another like famous person in the film world that like they don't love it when like they're walking down the street and somebody like grabs them for a picture. Like, let's take a selfie. Like, I'm not your object to like grab. And it's like interesting because like I always compare like everybody wants to be skinny, like everyone wants to be rich, like everybody wants to be famous. Like we see like the glitz and the glam and all that stuff and the way like social media and television curates things to make it look like something that we really, really, really want. Like it's not all that it's cranked up to be like the skinniest person or to be the most beautiful person or to be the richest person. Like you do become that object and like we are as humans so much deeper than skinny or fat.
100%. So I want to also take this conversation deeper for a second, okay? As a healthcare provider, I understand, and I'm going to talk to you also as a patient, as I understand that weight is just a number on a scale. And I will say that when I was pregnant with my fourth or fifth, I was looking for a midwifery practice. And I'm always nervous about like weight bias, like in healthcare, because it's
Hmm.
one of the most fraught areas where we
Yeah.
like really look at numbers and details and data. And so we attach health to that. And I was interviewing potential midwives, and a midwife said, "Well, how much do you weigh?" And I gave her a number. And she said, "Oh, we can't take you." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, what if you faint in the," or she said, "You can't have a water birth." She was giving me like restrictions, or I don't remember exactly what it was. And she's like, "Well, what if you faint in the water and then you're dead weight and we can't lift you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I used to work like med surge. I used to work end of life. I used to work oncology. Dead weight is dead weight. Like if it's 100 pounds of dead weight or 400 pounds of dead weight, that is like you have to use the same mechanics to move it. It's not so much about the number as it is like this is dead weight. Like you were trained to lift 200 pounds of
Right.
dead weight. Like I don't know many people who are trained to lift that. And I remember like I said to her, I said, I work out 3 to 4 times a week. I eat super duper healthy. I have zero risk factors. I have a proven track record of having healthy vaginal births. I know that like I know how to manage my pregnancies because whatever complications I've had before, and I know what to do. I know how to do them. The number is just a number, and I think that sometimes we lose the plot in healthcare in specific. And I think it's very hard for someone who's not in healthcare and doesn't understand this to stand up and say, well, actually, I'm a perfectly healthy
Right.
person. And I might be healthier in many, many, many ways than someone who weighs 100 pounds. I have people who walk into here all the time who weigh almost nothing. Their diet is terrible.
Right.
Their stress management is awful. Their
Right.
sleep is terrible.
Yeah.
Everything, like their health markers are through the roof, not good, and their body shows that. And
Right.
then you can walk in here 250 pounds, 350 pounds, but you're exercising and you have muscle.
Hmm.
You're eating healthy, your stress management is great, your interpersonal support systems are fabulous. All the things stack up, and you know who's going to be the healthier person? The heavier person is going to be
Right.
by far the healthier person.
Yeah, 100%. I feel that the same way, like about myself. Like, I have been skinny. I have had a lot of disordered eating, and I'm probably at my heaviest weight after having 5 kids, Kanahara. I exercise a lot. I do eat nutritious foods, and like it's so funny. It's not funny, but it's funny to see like first of all, it's really annoying the conversations about weight loss. It's just like it's so annoying. I like fluctuate between like when I go to the doctor, I turn around. I don't want to know my weight. And I obviously end up looking at the after report and seeing my weight and being like, maybe it's better to neutralize my weight. Like sometimes I work with clients like, is it better for you to know your weight or not know your weight? Which one's better? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying
But
to
you have to see where you're at. I think that's really like
right,
the number, if you can look at the number in a healthy way and say, this doesn't define me,
right,
and
right,
this is not a marker of anything massive, and it's just
yeah,
this gig is under hate. But if you're gonna look
right,
at it and then feel bad about yourself
right,
or feel like you have to gain weight, lose weight,
right,
manipulate weight, and
right,
that's your hyper fixation for the next 2, 3 weeks, please don't look at it until you're in a healthier place. And then
right,
once it's just a number, gig is under hate. Go ahead, look
right,
at the
right,
number because who cares?
right,
But like
100%.
for
Exactly.
a child, like my pediatrician knows that, like, do not talk to my children about weight. I don't want you
Right,
to do it. You have something to say, here's my number, call me
right.
up. I'll tell you what I need you to do. What you don't need to do, I will have the conversation.
It's so important
Like it, like
for
that's not
for
a thing
people
I
to
want
know
you
that.
to talk about.
Right.
What fascinates me also, like, let's just like put this out there, kids can gain 10 to 20 pounds right before a growth spurt. So
Right,
if you're bringing
right,
a teenager into your office and you're saying, oh my God, you gained 20 pounds.
right,
Stop. They're
right,
probably about to go through a growth spurt. Like,
right,
back off. They're supposed to gain weight because they're going to shoot up. They're
right,
supposed to gain weight because the body process is about to happen. They
right,
need those reserves. Hashem, their body so that it does that.
right, right, right. It is actually really important that you're saying this as a clinician slash as a patient, and I'll say it for myself because like I also like I'm a dietitian. Like I've worked in the medical field. Like I've worked in nursing homes, and I now I have my own private practice. But like I'll I'll talk back to the doctor, not in a mean way, not in a disrespectful way, but like if they'll say this, I'll be like, well, why? Why are you doing that? And like people don't know because they see doctors are authority figures, but like you have a right as a patient to advocate for yourself and advocate for your child. And I know it's scary. And a good doctor will be humble enough to be like, oh, I hadn't read that research paper, or like I hadn't heard about division of responsibility. Let me hear. I want to see. I want to read up on it. And like, I do find, and I had a similar situation with my own pregnancies. Like trying for a VBAC. I had a VBAC after two C-sections, Baruch Hashem, and like. With one doctor, I was like labeled obese and like high risk, and another doctor was like, "You're totally fine. Like everything's fine. Like just because you trigger for obese based on your weight and your height, that doesn't mean you're unhealthy." And I was like, yes, thank you. And I know that not every doctor is coming around, but like we're doing good work in the world for sure.
Yeah, yeah. These conversations is where the change happens when you hear people and you understand that this is okay and this is normal and we have to change it for our children. That's really where the biggest growth happens. And I don't know, and Gila, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that anyone who's grown up in an atmosphere that was very fatphobic or weight focused, or that you're ever going to turn those voices off on your head in your head completely. But I think you can rewrite them a little bit and you
Right.
can change like how you interact with your own body. And that's the message that really goes through to our children in the loudest way possible.
I really appreciate you saying that because I feel like that's where like I got stuck and a lot of people do get stuck. And Evelyn Tribole, one of the authors of Intuitive Eating, like I trained with her and I did supervision with her. And I remember telling her once, like, I'm such a fraud. Like I feel fat. I look in the mirror and say, oh, I feel like not every day, but like I have my moments. And she's like, no, 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 Gila, you're in it with your clients. And I was like, you're so right. Like, and then like she gave me so much confidence, and I've worked with a lot of different dietitians and supervisors and everything, but like to say to a client like, I understand why you want to lose weight and I understand why you being in a larger body is making you feel sad today, and tomorrow might be a better day, or like you're allowed to sit in that negative feeling for a certain amount of time, but you can also move past it. And I think that that's like, even just recently, we went away for the weekend, and there was tons of people, like I don't know, 200 people, so 100 women, right? And I was like debating, say to my husband, not say to my husband, but I was like, there were so many moments over Shabbos I was feeling so jealous of the really skinny women. I was feeling really badly about myself, and I was like, and he was like, no, 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 like, we don't know. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like I'm allowed to feel like that. Like I'm allowed to have those moments. Like I'm literally like strengthening myself to remind myself that like I'm so much more than a body, and anybody in this room who's becoming friends with me or getting to know me, like I hope they don't love me because I'm skinny or fat. Like I just think that's weird. Like anyone who I met, I'm not thinking like I love that lady, she's so beautiful and skinny. Like there, I just don't relate to people like that. So I'm just assuming that the other people are not relating to me like that. And like we all have like our social anxiety. Like, does my makeup look, I said to my husband, I'm like, you know what? For the next part of the evening, like I'm not gonna change my makeup. Like the old Gila would be like, I'm gonna go back to my room and like put on some more makeup just to like feel prettier, like why not? And which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying anything against it. But like I was like, no, I'm gonna challenge myself. Like I don't think anybody's gonna notice if I'm wearing new makeup, and like I don't need that. Like, and I'm not saying if I decided I want to feel prettier and I'll feel prettier with a full face of makeup, gives them to hate. That would have been great too. But like, it's just like constantly challenging yourself, like we're more than our body. And like, because like, I feel like people need to know this. Like, intuitive eating isn't like, who cares about your body? It isn't like, I'm fat and who cares? It isn't like, just eat cookies all day. Like, it's literally the opposite of that. But people don't like, we have to change the language around it, or like change the messaging, because people are getting that as like, oh, like you just don't care about your body,
Right, it's not about let's just eat chocolate cake all day. But I do want
Right.
to pick on something for a second. I also want the women listening to understand that you don't live in a man's body. So that
Right.
means that you live in a body that is meant to fluctuate. You live in a
Right.
body that is meant to go through seasons.
Right.
A man's body basically stays the same through teenagehood. They do one major shift like around midlife and they become a little different, but there's no massive like back and forth and like
Come on.
hi.
Yeah.
There's no massive fluctuation of seasons. Like if you're having baby nursing, like
Yeah.
your hormones are gonna hold on to weight. Like you
Right.
just had a baby and you're breastfeeding a baby, your body needs those fat stores. So
Right.
some people are gonna lose weight because of the calories, and honestly, I would say probably also they're just not eating enough. Right?
Right.
Like, or it's just genetics. Like some people will
Genetics,
lose
right?
weight and who cares, right?
Yeah.
But like you are meant to, on some level, have roundness. Like the roundness,
Right.
like when I explain your body shape to teenagers, I explain puberty in the following way. Like puberty is the transition, it's the bridge between childhood and adulthood. And if you look at a child's body, a boy and a girl, they're the same. They're basically a rectangle, right? They're the
Hmm.
same rectangle. Everything's super aligned. There's no shape. And then what happens in puberty, one of the shifts that happens is that your hips get wider, certain body parts soften, your stomach gets softer, your tush gets rounder. I'm allowed to say everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure, like
Yeah. Thank
your
you.
breasts get larger, right? And what is it doing? It's basically sorting your body to become a woman. And as a woman, one of the unique things that you're able to do is house a child, feed a child, give birth to a child. And so it's totally normal for there to be more weight held onto your body in certain seasons, right?
Hmm.
So fertility is affected by lack of fat stores.
Right.
Fertility is like, look at anorexic people, people who are really like struggling maintaining, enough calories in their bodies. Their fertility is down the tubes. Like it's really,
Right.
really hard for them to get pregnant. We are supposed to in this season of life have shifts and changes. And then obviously, like anyone post-menopause is going to tell you that everything slows down and everything
Right.
shifts and you become a
Right.
little softer and bubbies are soft and cozy and
Right.
like that's beautiful. It's supposed to be like that. So fighting something because some person in Paris decided
Yeah.
or in the fashion show decided that bodies have to look a certain way. Okay. And like, are you going to spend your whole life, this beautiful 70, 80, 100 years, 120 years in this world, fighting a body that Hashem has given you? Or are you going to say, I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to have an active relationship with Hashem. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to feed my body. I'm going to nourish my body. I'm going to make sure it has enough protein, enough healthy fats, enough fiber, enough liquid, enough hydration? Am I going to make sure that I move my body every single day in a way that feels good? And for some people, they need those endorphins and they're running on the treadmill. For some people, they're stretching on the rug with their baby. Like
They're
everyone's
dancing, they're
going
gardening, they're
right, right.
rollerblading.
They're
There's so many
dancing around
ways.
their
Yeah. Hula
kitchen.
hooping, anything. Yeah. Any
Right?
type of
What
way.
is it that you need to do for your body 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day? And I like when I talk about movement with my patients, and always, this is always a conversation. If you're a patient, I want to hear all those things. I don't want to hear, like, what's your problem? Okay, here's a pill, go.
Right.
I
Right.
want to hear what does your life look like? Because you are more than just a problem. You're
Hmm.
more than just a number. You're more than just that set of data that we're so used to giving our doctors, right? We need to know that if my cortisol is high, okay, I'm going to hold on to weight that my body actually doesn't need. So can weight be a symptom of something wrong? 100%. So not all weight has to stay there, but if I'm hyper focused on my weight, I have ignored the problem, right?
Hmm.
The problem is not the weight.
Right.
The problem is, did I nourish my body enough? Did I move my body enough? Did I manage my stress enough? And some people are going to even out at a weight that doesn't look like what someone in Paris decided we all need to
Right.
look like.
Right.
And some people are going to look that way and some people won't, and that's okay. But you don't have to look at the number. The number can be a symptom of sometimes, but the
Right.
number is not an indicator of.
Right. I like that.
That's
Yeah.
what you have to think. So that means that if I'm doing all the right things and I'm not the quote unquote right weight that someone said I have to be pretty, to be of value, to be of importance, who cares?
Right. Weight is
If
not a
I'm not
behavior.
doing all those things, right, then maybe I want to do those things.
Yeah. Weight is not a behavior. That's what Evelyn Tripoli says. And I really like
Yeah.
that.
Weight is exactly.
Yeah. So like move joyful movement or increasing your joyful movement, not just your movement. Like people are stressed because they
Loving it, feeling
overexercise.
good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding
Not
food that
punishing
you
your body
enjoy.
through movement.
Exactly.
Like, and that's
Right.
that's really again, that's the voice that a lot of people hear. Like, you must exercise every single day for 30 minutes. When
Right.
I ask about exercise, everyone's like, oh no, no, no. And I'm like,
Right.
honey, you live in Brooklyn. Yeah, you
Right.
know that, right?
Right.
You
Right.
know you're walking 30 minutes a day if you're not using your car. You're getting your
Right.
to daycare and you're going to walk
Yeah.
to your job and you're going to the store. You've walked for 30 minutes. You've
Right.
done movement. You
Right.
don't have to punish your body to move. But should you also do joyful movement? 100%. You need to feel good and powerful
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
present in your body.
Yeah.
That's also
100%.
important.
100%. This is so amazing. I'm so happy we finally got to do this. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy, busy, busy. Where could people find you if they want to hear more about you? Are you taking on new patients? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I am taking on new patients. I can send you the number and you can put it in the show notes.
Perfect.
I basically have a concierge practice here in Brooklyn
Okay.
where I see patients. There's no waiting room, we're scheduled that you're not really hanging out in a waiting room. You go right in. I spend at least an hour with you. We really get to know each other. We look at the problem in a very much a holistic way. We could do annuals, we do all the stuff. Right now I'm doing just GYN. So it's women's health and GYN. That's what I'm doing. I'm not doing OB right now.
Okay.
So I'm not taking on pregnancy patients at all.
Okay.
Um, I would love to connect to people more about schools and about education. I will say, Gila, I am writing a book that I've been writing slowly for like a long time.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to kind of finish it soon.
Okay. I'm also writing a book. It's all fun.
You know what? It's so emotional when you're writing a
Yeah.
book. It's
Is
like,
it
do I
about,
put myself out there
is
in
it
that
everything
way?
personal memoir? Is it you want to
No,
share?
it's
No?
puberty, puberty,
Puberty.
puberty. I want a good
You're
read
writing the
of
puberty
all of
book
this.
for the firm world. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then I'm also working on a puberty project with mikvah.org right now as well. So
Wow.
hopefully
Wow.
a whole bunch of stuff. And I really feel like I don't want a 50-year-old, which I'm happy to see you at 50 and 60. But I feel sad. I don't want to say I don't want. I feel sad
Right.
when a 50 or 60-year-old comes and they're just so disconnected from their
Right.
body. They don't,
Right.
and they've birthed children. Nobody's ever been
Right.
like, hey, here's a mirror, let me show you. This is
Right.
what's actually happening in your body. Like, we're not just,
Right.
and I don't want that. I
You
want
want
people.
to avoid that. You want people to read this when they're younger. You want them to know about their body. You want them to. I happen to think that, again, you made that parallel, and I'm going to think about it more. But like, I do think that if we don't teach children about their growing, changing, beautiful bodies, they'll have a lot of body shame, and it will manifest, can manifest in a lot of eating disorder type of behaviors because they just feel so much shame or disconnection from their body. And
Connection is they don't own their
right,
bodies as a separate entity from them.
right,
So it goes like it's a very interesting juxtaposition if you listen, okay? Because we're like, oh, your body's not all you, right?
right.
But
Yeah.
then we're also saying, but you have to know your body, you have to know part of
Your
your
soul
body.
lives in your body. That's what I
Your
always say.
body is a vehicle for positive change. That's what
Right,
Chassidus teaches us, that everything in this world is here to serve Hashem, right?
right,
We are put into a body as a vessel to do good. We take care of our vessel. We take care of our homes. We take care of how we
right,
look. This
right.
is our, and by the way, just to end off with a very interesting thought is I remember when I read this, my mind was blown. So I was reading, there's a big fat sneeze book. I don't know if you know it. It's brown. The name's slipping my mind. And I, at one point was like, oh, I'll read all the sneeze rules because I want to know what it is that like, and there's a section in there that says, you know what's not sneeze? It's not elbows, collarbone, the knees. There was a section in there that was like, if your clothes are torn, if your clothes don't fit right, if your toes,
Right.
that's not sneeze. So it wasn't
Right.
like, oh, don't wear it because it's not nice.
Yeah.
You are a godly being. You
Right.
deserve to look beautiful. You deserve to feel beautiful. You deserve to feel present. You deserve to
Right.
feel good in. So we're not saying at all like disconnect yourself from your body because your body's not important and don't talk
Right.
about it. We're saying this is important. It's not who you are. It's not your value, but it's something that we have value for
Right.
when it's used in the correct manner.
Right. And that just ties into basically like what I do, what you do. Like I tell people like food is delicious and yummy and you should enjoy your food and you should move on, you know? And like it's the same thing with like like I don't know, I would love to be, I told you I would love to be a doula. Just the process of birth is like when I speak to women who have had children, and I'm like, I know you hate your body right now because you hate the way it looks, but if you could refocus for a moment, just what it did, just what did it just do? Like when I had a successful VBAC after two C-sections, I was like, this body is so strong. Like obviously Hashem did it, but like just the whole everything connecting to my body on that level, I felt so present in my body, and like I just want to share the message, you know. So
Yeah,
I'm really
I tell my postpartum mom, stand in front of a mirror. And if you don't feel comfortable standing in front of a mirror, lay in a bath, like sit in a bath postpartum and tell your body, you are incredible. And I tell them it's cheesy, like you're gonna feel
right.
weird doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
But think
but it
like
still works.
your stomach that is now covered in stretch marks and looks different
Yeah,
and softer, it carried life.
yeah,
That pelvic floor that feels so heavy and not doing what it needs to do, birthed a baby. If
yeah,
you had a C-section, hello, look at what those muscles are doing healing.
yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
Your body continues to walk after squishing a watermelon out of it. Like
Yeah,
you're walking, you're carrying a baby, you're not even recovering. You're waking up every night to feed that baby. You
right.
are so strong and powerful, and your body is the vessel that's doing that right now. And that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
And there's seasons. Again, we go back to
yeah,
it. You're
yeah,
not
yeah.
men. These
Yes,
are
yes.
all seasons. Your body will consistently and constantly shift and change. And we can't expect it to be static.
100%. Okay, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Gila. I'm glad
Bye.
it worked out. Bye.
Bye.